Hello, everybody. Thanks for checking in again for our weekly conference call. Something that we do every Sunday, released onto YouTube. Um, right now, we're going to be. I got asked a couple of times if we're going to do it live. We might look to do it live here in the next few weeks. Right now, I think we're just going to do the recording, and you know, gives us a little bit of time. Feel free to submit questions in Discord. Feel free to submit questions on private Twitter. More than happy to answer and help out as much as we can. Lots of new stuff happening at Alpha Traders. Again, we're a newer service that we started about a month and a half ago. Really just putting out free educational content, some ideas that we're kind of going through. Some alerts that we recommend in doing, and just trying to organically grow out of what our goals are, which are to educate you guys, which are to help with if you're in a rut, or if you're having issues, or you haven't been profitable. We're really here to help you, and we want you to be successful, and that's really our main goal. Is we're not selling you guys indicators or any of that stuff. A lot of it is just, this is a really good play. I personally play all the plays that I put out there, and it's let's learn, let's have fun, let's make some money. So everybody knows, we're going to upload this one to our YouTube channel. We'll also put it out on Twitter when it's loaded and ready, and we will give it to the masses for free. If you're watching now, we appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys taking your time out and tuning into what we have to say. And if you guys are interested in trying it out, right now we're doing 3-day trials, and it's at www.alphatraders.com. Just put your email into the box on the main page, and we will get back to you ASAP. Or you can DM us on Twitter at Alpha Traders Inc., and we'll answer right away. So let's get to this. Let's bring up the screen, make sure we have the right screens here. All right, so Apple, I want to make sure we have the right, there we are. So I'd like to do a slideshow with you guys, but for some reason it's not annotating correctly. So all right, here we go. All right, we'll start with Apple here. So Apple's very interesting right now. Let's do that so we can see the whole screen. Very, very interesting. So it's down 20% from the highs. Usually when Apple is choppy like this, the market's choppy. It's obvious that it's been. We took some losses. We took some wins this past week. It's a tough place to navigate, especially when a lot of setups look really good, but then the market doesn't want to, I guess, kind of agree with what you're doing. And even though we're giving levels on the SPX and giving levels on all that, it's tough to, sometimes you can get caught in because the option play, your timing is off by a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever that is. Timing is everything. And, we can sit here and look at IV and out of the money percentages and in the money percentages and gamma and delta, and we can look at all this stuff, and it definitely gives us a good idea of where we need to go, and we're using those to our advantage every single time we can. But with Apple, it's very, very interesting here. It's a really simple setup, even though it's been really tough to trade. I'm almost to the point, just to be honest with you, where Apple is more of a stock trade for me than it is an option trade. Um, Not saying you can't make good money, not saying it won't run up at some point, not saying any of that. But what I am saying is it's weighted so heavy now with so many stock splits over the year. Over the years, it's really hard to get that IV rush that, where you can, if you're in calls, you can really push, really crush the IV and, for call sellers and whatnot. Um, or opposite where it drops off face, it drops and you're able to catch it. If you want to short Apple, it's actually easier if you have a good setup rather, and you'll make more money than you will actually longing it. Just from what since the stock split. I mean, you can see this here. If you did kind of catch it up here, look at that. That's 2 straight days of you just killing it. Just absolutely. That's 10 points, inferred $40 pre-split move. I mean, you're killing it. And even if you get pushed down and you come back, look at this chop. Look at the chop. And then it dives again. So if you're chop, chop, bear flag, chop, great. But then it's even choppy and then it bull flags, but it's not this right here. These 2 days I remember were not like this amazing, just juice up. It was grind slow. It went up and you got excited maybe here as the day turned. You got excited because it was up and then you got crushed again at 382. So, and then it just chop, chop, chop. And then we gapped up. If you remember, we gapped up here and it was like, oh, wow, we're getting somewhere. We got, this is when pre-event, pre-iPhone event, all that stuff. So you had some news behind it. And then if you had just sold the 618, boom, you could have sold a week to 2 weeks or a month and you'd be doing pretty well right now. You have 120, it's another 10-point move. But these implied moves here are just, to me, they're not big enough to even play it. But you always want to do Apple first because you get sentiment, other than doing the ETFs and, the Qs and all that, which we're skipping just for the sheer fact we want to get right to the equities that we really like. And we're trying to condense the time since, we value your time and what you're doing. This trend line's super simple. If you do want to long it, we're going to see if this holds tomorrow. Personally, for the IRA, this is obviously Apple is an IRA stock that you really want to have for the next 30 years. It's the big boy. It's the biggest company. The dividends are good. Warren Buffett makes hundreds of millions of dollars in dividends on Apple a year. So, this is one for the IRA. I think this is more of an IRA play here. Even if this bounces, it could get up to 130. But is it here? Flag, 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 chop, chop, chop. Election happens. Boom, we get a stimulus. There's your bounce. That's the only thing that I can see that I would be like, buy an Apple, period. Stimulus, boom. They're going to try to sell up to 75 million iPhones, they said. By Christmas, they're at an average of 2 million a day. It's kind of par for the course. And it's almost like you want the earnings this week to be very, very, very good. They weren't great last time, even though they had COVID handed to them. I don't know that their business changed much. I don't know that they could, I don't know how much more Apple can do to wow you. I'm sure they're super smart and they always think of things and they're always, behind it. But, their stuff is always after the fact and in terms of advanced technology. And so I think Apple for me is more just IRA. I'm going to compile it more. If it does break this trend line and go down to 111, I'm going to buy a little more for the IRA. And then heck, if we get all the way down here, we fill this gap here to 96, 97. I don't think we ever will. We might if there's a big depression or something happens. Hey, look what happened here. It will be continually added to the IRA. Right now, don't think there's much of an IV crush. I don't think there's much of a opportunity for options. If you want to play it, you can, but you're maxing yourself at 30, 40%, in my opinion, which is good for some people. Amazon. So I'm not sure why this is double, but okay. Interesting, interesting. I must have just saved it twice. Sorry about that. If you're seeing double, it's because you are. So you guys will see on my chart sometimes I just draw these broadening wedges. I just want to see it. I'm not a huge indicator charter guy. I like using indicators like the 8 and 21 day on the daily. It just gives you an idea of where things are at. I rarely, unless it is riding the 821, I rarely am going to sit here and say buy this, buy that because it's sitting on the 821 day. When we were riding things up through this, I think Amazon, every time it touched the 8-day, it bounced. In that type of trend, sure, okay, we can use that as a good catalyst. But once it extended, the 8-day was probably here and it was all the way up here. And 8 days no longer good. It just tells you it's down here. So and then it ran. So sometimes you'll see me draw these. I just want to get a visual of where that gap was and where this thing keeps bouncing. It literally poked its head up at 3204. I have 3205 as the number. It gets through 3205, it's runner. I mean, it should run into earnings. I think this week's a big week for tech. I think Apple runs maybe to 124, maybe. It's going to be slow and chop. It's going to be slow and it's a grind. Amazon, though, Amazon can move 200 points in a day. I mean, it's shown that. It literally showed that last week. It was up 200 one day, or it was up 175, was down 180 the next day. So there is a lot of opportunity, but the problem with Amazon, it's very, very pricey premium. Even if you're playing with a $50 million account, I'm not sure you even want to play some of these because your risk reward is way lower than playing something like Fastly, which will show you, like in my opinion, maybe a Facebook. Like I would rather put money into Facebook where the premiums are cheaper and I have more risk. You know, I know my RR is just, it's going to be a little better. So Amazon, if it gets through 3205, which I expect it to tomorrow, I really do. Unless it gets rejected so hard that it just flattens out. I don't see it. It's hard for people get excited about Amazon into earnings. They get excited about, FANG and maybe not Netflix this time around, but they get excited about Apple and Amazon and the big and Google and running into earnings. So I think you see a buy up. I think this whole sell off from this point, what was that, October, I don't know the exact date there, October 23rd. I'm sorry, October 19th, 18th, off the top of my head. I think we just see this one break out. Let's see if we can, there we go. So now we have CRISPR, CRSP, one of my absolute favorites. Doesn't have a ton of open interest. I love the setup. I love the company. I love what they're doing. If you guys have been following it all, you know that their CEOs are top notch. They just they signed a distribution contract with a really reputable distribution company for a COVID treatment. They also have some awesome therapeutics going on in other sectors as well. This is seriously one of my favorite ones going into flu season, into sick season. I'm a huge fan of these guys. So we played it before up through here. I believe it was up through here. Got it to here. I actually personally I went to some YOLO 115 calls when it was, I don't know, probably about right here. I was just doing it just in case the top blew off even more and it went, they were up 60-70% at one point, I think, here. Now they were right here, and then I didn't sell them. I was more or less, it was 100% or not at that point. And again, you guys will learn as you keep listening. I have certain set rules, like lottos like this, lottos on small names. If it's within 24 to 48 hours, especially same day, you have to get 100% or else it's not working. For example, I personally played, we played AMD on Friday, made 200%. Boom, we got in right at the low. We saw that the relative strength came back. Boom, we got right in, 200% in an hour. It was great. On CRISPR here, there's a huge gap between 98 and 104.51 with 101.08, kind of the middle ground on it. Right now it's at 92.65. I really wanted to load up here, but I was focused on other things. It ran up on Friday to 93. I do expect this to run immediately at the open, only to be sold off, and then maybe sit for half a day, whatnot, and then continue on. I'd be super surprised if this thing just rockets up to 98, gets to the gap. If it does, cool. It's going to get rejected, most likely, because it's going to be a very choppy market. So if you've been in here in the stock or in the options, this is going to be a beautiful play. 98 is your number. If it hangs around 93, hangs around 93, in my opinion, I think it's a great move. I think you're in the 100 calls at that point. I think the 100 calls are probably around, off the top of my head, probably 350 to 380. And this is a great play. You're going to make 80, 90% on this. Especially if you can get it on Monday or Tuesday, you can hold it for a few days, let it run up to that gap. And then right when it gets to that gap, sell 50%. That way you cover your premium, your initial investment. It's a free trade now. Even if you lose everything, it was still a free trade. So even at 50%, I mean, if you bought it at, we'll just call it 93 and 98, if you bought it for 380, you're probably going to be at 560, 570. Then that's just me off the top of my head. I don't have the actual calculator in front of me, but I mean, CRISPR was 92.10 after hours, which for us is a good sign. I really would like it at 80. I would love for it to test this 93, get to 93 like it did, and it fails, which would be great in the sense that it gives us a greater opportunity to buy something. Now, I would recommend, I mean, it's really your risk tolerance, right? So I'm sorry, I was if you do lottos, which I don't recommend, I was speaking more so the November 20th. The November 20th 100 calls are 430. They were 430, I should say. The November 6 calls are better in the sense that it gives you enough time to get in and it gives you enough time to let it run a little bit. Those were only 285. So if you're in at 285, we'll call it you get in at 250 just to make it even. It runs up from 90, we'll call it 90, 92 to 98. You get 6 points there. Your call should be, especially if it's in the same day or if it's over 2 days, your call should be at 60, 70% at least. Depends, again, it depends on the IV, it depends, all that stuff. But, just that's a beautiful trade. And heck, if you can get 100%, because what if it hits this gap and it starts to fill it a little bit? There's going to be a lot of volume coming in. If people see this gap starting to fill, they're going to be pushing this thing up. Now, remember, gaps are made to be filled. This gap is made to be filled. We just don't know when. So what we really need to do is focus on the entry. If we can get it more down 90 or 89, 90, I think that's beautiful. We'll go in at 92 if we have to. It's fine. But, of course, we want it better. Invalidated if it breaks 87.05. It's a very simple stop loss. If this drops to 86.50 and it middles, and then it pops back up, that's great. We know that that's relative strength. So the stop loss, if you guys are playing that, if you guys remember, I don't play stop losses. I expect it to go to zero. I'm not sitting here lying to myself. I expect it to go to zero. And every time I take a trade, it's calculated. It is careful. I am always trying to make sure I conserve my capital. The only time I change my mind is if the stock changes, news comes out, or there's a fundamental change in the market itself for some reason. There was an earthquake, a natural disaster. That's not, to me, that's not news. News is like stimulus signs. Stimulus says no, there's going to be no deal on a trade pact with China, things like that. And it has to come out. It has to be real. So you got to be really in tune with it and focused on what you're doing. But these are our buy zones between 87.05 and 93.03. I would recommend the November 600s. That's just me. That's what I'm looking at. I didn't say you should do it. I'm not saying it's getting there, but what I am saying, there's a good probability that this gap is going to be filled soon. And if you give yourself 2 weeks, you may have a great chance at it. DraftKings. We were a week early on DraftKings. We bottom ticked DraftKings, but it just didn't take off. It took off for about $1 and then or maybe $2. I think we got 2 points on it. And it just didn't go anywhere. Our calls expired worthless. It's hard. It looked like it was ready to go. A lot of volume came in this area here, but it just didn't pop till the end on Friday when everything was running. I expect this to retest this line here. If it does retest 41, I think this thing is a long. You could even go, depending on, again, what your goal is, or if you're more into leaps, if you don't mind the time. I think this thing has, 50 written all over it. Literally, I think it's 50 written all over it. It's the 382, which is 49.51, which is great. The 382, it's a 50% retrace, 50% on that. I think it's great. Question again is just when. When's that point? If you think it's going to go this week, the 45 calls are 98 cents. Really, that's a really good premium as long as the market makers don't snatch that up real quick. The 44s were $1.33. So that's the lottos. I personally think we need a little more time. I really think if the thesis stands, which I'm a big thesis person. I like having a thesis, a reason. There's a reason here that we think DraftKings is going to pop, which we do. You see the trend line. You see the break of that line. It's been absolutely respected the whole time. To me, I wouldn't even be shy at the November 50 calls. I think there were 250 at close. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. And especially, and you got to look at this, especially if they announce a stimulus in 2 weeks, this is up. See you later. It's gone. 50 is easy. You might get 55 out of it. So I think DraftKings, if you're patient, has a great risk reward. I know I'll be watching it. I really think November 20th, 50 calls are going to be really, really hot if this pops. If you want to play a lotto, you could play the 44s. I probably would even recommend the 43s because you just never know what's going on. You're going to make more money, obviously, on the 45s if it does pop. Again, 98. It was at 98 cents at close. The 45 call. The 44 was $1.33. The 43 was $1.73. So there's not a lot of discrepancy there for me. I think if you want to play it safe, go with the 44s. I think 44. I don't see why 44 can't hit. But the thing is, if 44 comes, 45 comes. So I would stick with the 45s. They're $1. I think they're very cheap. I think you have a great opportunity there. Facebook, 100% the big name to go to this week. If you see, it popped on Snap earnings. When Snap released earnings and they were surprising, not only did Snap run, but Facebook, everybody started going, if Snap is making revenue during this election season, what is Facebook doing? even though they have all this other stuff going on and they still get paid to run people's ads. This is once every 4 years where you have a presidential debate, or I'm sorry, a presidential race, that you get this type of inflow of advertising in the quarter. And this quarter, not only is Facebook going to get their normal advertising that they've gotten, even though there's a lot of bad press and bad news, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, the numbers are, I think the numbers are going to be really good on Facebook. I don't plan on being in Facebook on the run up, but I do. I mean, I'm on the earnings day, which I believe is Thursday. But I do think that Facebook is the play to 300 this weekend. I literally, um, I'm trying. It's one of those things where I'm asking myself, how does this not work? And again, these things cannot work. These things are more than, these are just odds, and we're playing math and we're trying to make the best decisions possible. But by the 29th, when Facebook reports, where are we going to be? In my opinion, I think we're going to be all the way up here retesting all-time highs. And we're currently in Facebook 300s for next week. Any type of pullback, which we will have, this isn't going to be a straight line up tomorrow. Any pullback is an additional buy for me for lottos this week. I will keep adding to my 300s. I may even add some 305s if I really, if it's really acting well and it gets to 289 and it acts really well, 305 might be a great number to get in. I think after you clear 289, you have a little bit of 290. I mean, we'll call it 291 you clear. To me, it's clear skies. 297 isn't going to be enough to back you out. It might stop you for a 4-hour candle, but it's going through. So keep Facebook on watch. This one is a go-to this week. It is the big boy, along with Amazon. I just think Facebook's a way better play from a option standpoint this week. I wanted to make sure you guys saw what I'm looking at on the Fastly chart. There is so much, Fastly got absolutely killed, right? But what goes up must come down. And what goes down usually always comes back up, especially when we're talking about gaps. And that is a monster Amazonian crater gap that is. That gap is worth 25 points. 25 points. To me, you play this two ways, and this is what I'm already thinking. I think that we start scaling in. I actually added, and side note, I actually added personally, I added some stock between 78. I added some stock to the IRA. I also added stock at 70. It was 75, 80, I think 75, 85. I can't remember. It was somewhere right around there. Added more. I will keep adding Fastly all the way down to 60, $70, we'll call it. I think Fastly is a really good company, and I think just because they were wishy-washy on their guidance, it came across as negative. The core of what they do is elite. And I think people are seeing this and going, this is just a straight oversold play. So for me, I don't know when Fastly is going to bounce. I have no clue. But I will tell you this, I have no problem being patient on this because I think 95 gets revisited sooner rather than later. I think you're going to have to chop through the 80s. You're going to have to chop through, get to 90. And then after that, I think you're straight to 95. And it could be this week, could be next week, could be a combination of 3 weeks from now. I really like the November 20th for 375. I think we can get that. I think if as long as we have it locked up and we're prepared and we know what it is, I think that is a great play. Is it going to work? I don't know. I think one of the things that we have to do as traders is humble ourselves to know that we don't know anything. We don't know what stocks are going to do. We can go back to patterns. We can go back to what has happened in the past. What are some normalcies, quote unquote, that we can go to, but we don't know what's going to happen. Pelosi could say, we're not going to do a deal, period. And what's going to happen? The market's going to tank. So there's so many things that can happen. But if the market structure stays there, and we know there's a big bullish thesis on this, and this is a very volatile stock. It's a very volatile stock that we're going to be able to get at least 25 points from where we're at right now. I'm sorry, 20 points. 20 points over the next month. I think that is easy. Personally, I think by November 20th, Fastly is going to be $120. I think that gap is going to be filled extremely well. And we'll roll up. If that's the case, honestly, at that 95, at the top of that, bottom of that gap at 95.35, to me, that's the sell. You sell the hundreds, unless it's the day of course. I mean, by then you'll probably run up and break even, and we'll roll and we'll adjust just like any trader has to do. But if it's 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now and we're running up and we see this and it hits that 95, we're going to be green and we're going to sell that and we're going to roll. Because by the time it hits 95, it is probably going to be a little overextended unless it's 3 weeks and it's, take a step up daily on the daily, go up, come back down, go back up, down. There's a lot of chop in there. So we'll see how it goes. But I really do think November 20th is a good date. I don't think they're expensive. 375 is not expensive. In my opinion. I think the market makers actually are having this backwards a little bit. They're giving us a month at 375 for, we'll call it 25 points. I know it sounds crazy sometimes, but you have to be aggressive. If you want to make money, sometimes you have to be aggressive. And to me, this is one of those plays that, it's been such a drawdown. And when I see gaps like that, I get excited. I get, you can probably hear it in my voice saying, I get ready to go. So we're going to play this. I'm putting my own money on the line. I do think this is a very bullish thesis for this. I think it took its lumps. I think they taught it a lesson. Everybody taught Fastly a lesson. And now it's time for Fastly to come back in the next month. Livongo, LVGO, one of my favorites. They're finally getting, I was reading some things that the reason they were kind of, they were struggling a little bit in here. There was a little bit of bad news, like they weren't on their stuff. Got down to 136.82, and then I'm reading that they've kind of cleared up their processes and their distributors and everything. So it looks good to go. I mean, as you can see, it's a bullish pennant. This simple, TA, just kind of looking at it, going up. Well, we're uptrend, very good. It held the base of this. I think we get up to 147. It'll be on my screen for sure. A lotto play, maybe. We'll have to see how the premiums turn out. They report on the same day as Teladoc does. So we'll see how this plays out. I do like this. If it does middle here, if it opens around this area, if we can get a push, maybe we can do the 145 call. I'm sorry, the 145s. See how that goes, and but I like it. I love the structure. I don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, it could just meddle in here for a week, who knows? NVIDIA, I threw my indicators on this one. I just wanted you guys to see from an indicator standpoint, like I'm not sitting here going, oh, well, 200's here and the 8 days here, the 21's here, and we're doing that and we're crossing this and that. I'm not doing that. Again, they're just points of reference. I think anybody who uses nothing but TA will struggle at some point. There's a huge truth to computers run the stock market. These supercomputers that are super smart, they do what they're told. And how do you do that? You have to set parameters within that code. And how do you do that? You do it with anchored VWAPs. You do it with 8-day, 21-day. All these things are different. So there's definitely a place for TA, and I love TA people. I love TrendSpider. I think it's a great platform, but it's not everything. Remember, charts only tell you what happened. They can't tell you what is going to happen, but they can give you an idea of where to go. So what I wanted to bring up here was I like using RSI as not as my, hey, I'm buying this, and not that. It's just to see how hot it is. It's kind of like if you have an old Chevy manual from the 70s, you kind of got to let it rev up and get hot so that you can step on the gas, especially if you're up north and it's a cold winter. And for me, when it gets above 80, that means you're running hot. You're running hot. You're running hot. You got to get some water in that thing. You got to get some coolant in there because that engine's running hot. So you have to have a cool off period. Also, it also gives you a good idea where it can bounce. If you look on this line, you just look at the pattern. It bounces every single time here. Every single time since May. Anytime it's got to this cross mark of the RSI, bounce. So it matches up here with the trend line. I probably could have drawn my trend line I was being conservative. I could probably draw it a little tighter. I think this is a bounce. I think NVIDIA over the next month will get back to 570. I don't see why, or test it at least. I think stimulus will help it, obviously, but it's just a really great stock. And this is after this initial, this earnings drop here, and it was choppy. It kind of based itself, blew up out of it, and it's still it flagged out. This is still a flag out. It's just testing the prior breakout. So, I like prior breakouts. I like price action. So I actually am not. The only problem with NVIDIA is the premiums are always super high. So you got to be really, really careful. I would love to see it at 541, 540, get into the 550s, and 550 is a big number. See where it goes from there. But I think NVIDIA has a lot of place to run. If you do want to play, if you want to play longer out, which is great. I love leaps. I make a lot of money. You got to be super patient and know that your money is tied up. You probably only want to look at 2 to 3 weeks out on NVIDIA, but I think the November 6th 550s ended at, I'm looking it up here, at 1528. So 2 weeks away is 1528. In the money, 10 down. Pulling it up so you guys have a reference. 10 down is 1395. So not great. I would probably just play NVIDIA this week as a lotto. Go for 550. If you can get it on Monday, which around 540, you can get the 550s probably for $5-6, maybe $7, and run it to 9 or 10. When it gets to 550, sell it off. Watch what it does. If it breaks 550 and stays, you can get up to the 560s and kind of roll and play with it from there. NVIDIA could run like it did before here. All these, 6 days in a row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 days in a row. So we'll see how it goes. NVIDIA is a strong equity. Love it. It's the leader in that area, and we'll see what happens. Pinterest. We're currently in the 56 calls for next week. A lot of people would say this is a way overextended. It has a gap below. It ran on Thursday and Friday. I actually don't see this pulling back that much. You might get 50. You might get to here. If you get to 47, even better. I don't think this gap fills here this week. You got earnings. Like I said, Snap has kind of put it on the radar that advertising is really good. I actually see Pinterest. It probably pulls back Monday to 50. I think 50 is that you add to the 56s and you let this thing run. I think by the time earnings come this week, I think this thing is already at 60. I really do. I wanted to highlight this too. You see this big sell. This is why I think the strength is so good. Big sell-off. They gapped up, got all the way up, and they sold that thing off. You remember it just fell through the floor same day, I believe. And it got to the base of that gap, defended the gap, bullish retest of the gap, perfect play off of it. I look into a day 3, especially tomorrow. like I said, it might pull back in the morning and we might get the day 3 on Tuesday. Would technically wouldn't be a day 3, but you get the idea. But you see this, they tried to sell this thing off. They tried, and the buyers just went, all right, we'll take it right back. So Pinterest, big one to play. We're in the 56 calls. We'll see how it goes. Shop. This one is just for a leap. Anybody who likes leaps. I didn't put too much into this. I think I bought 5 or 6 at $15 and some change. Just an idea. I have a love-hate relationship with Shop. I made a lot of money in August and I lost a lot of money in September on it. My own fault, wasn't anybody else's. I'm try to be as transparent as possible. I lost a lot of money right here. I lost a lot of money in here. I probably gave it all back from this move here. I probably gave it all back. Started getting it some back. I missed this move here personally. Missed this move. Caught it here at the tail end. Made some money, and then I was once it got to I think it was 11. I want to say 1107 off the top of my head. It was a weak area, and I'm like, you know what, 1107. It's already ran up. All the way from 800. I think it's good to let it chill out a little bit. And I'm glad I did. Probably could have put puts on it. Didn't really want to. I don't like going short unless it's same day on like SPX or SPY or something. In a day or two expiration when you're in a bull market, you can get rickrolled. So come back to here. I just the way that Shop is set up here with everything that's going on, Tech is supposed to get a run. It has a target of 1350, I want to say. I think there's 2. It got 2 upgrades here up to 1300. It's a thesis that I think this thing runs up to. I don't think it gets to 1300 by December. I don't, but I do think it breaks all-time highs. I do think it gets up there. And again, I'm not saying it gets to 1300 and I hold it till December 18th, but at $15, if it does for some reason run all the way up, it's going to be a 20 bagger, 18x. But even if it runs up to 1200, it's still a 10x. So if it gets through that 1107 and gets back up to 1150, to me, you start shaving it off at 1150, 1175, take back some of your premium. Hopefully that's mid-November after a stimulus is announced. And then you kind of just play it out. If it pops up some more, you shave some off. Just an idea for leaps and people that want to play beyond it. Snap. Put all these random indicators. I just wanted to show you how strong Snap was. This is just, wow. That's just a move. Added some in here just in case we get one more push in the morning. I think these calls are actually up 50% right now that we're in. I believe we are in I want to say we are in the 50s. I have it written down. I don't know where I put it. Yeah, I want to say we're in the 50s. Here we go. $46 calls. My mistake. Yeah, 46 calls we're currently in, up 50%. I think this might get a little more push. Obviously, it's extended. Obviously, this gap is going to get filled. We're not going to hang out in these very much longer. It's already super extended. We could go cute short. I wouldn't do it, but if you'd like to, you can cute short this back to the base here, which is 39.40. Big move. Look at that volume. Look at that. It's beautiful. It's going to be buyer exhaustion. It's running super hot, but no divergence, as they say, the technical guys. It's not running down while this is running up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. And I think that's all I have for you. Cool. So there you guys go. hopefully it gives you a couple ideas for this week. Hopefully just kind of gives you an idea of what we look at. Um, Again, thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in and being a part of what we're doing. Hopefully we can help you. If you guys are interested even more, again, it's www.alphatraders.com. We'd love to have you come try us out. Get to know me, get to know some of the other traders that we have. Also learning from each other. You guys can put your trades. We have a special channel for your trades, and as long as you have an entry and an exit, we promote that you guys put it out there. We want to hear what you have to say. So good luck this week. Hope you guys are successful, and if we can help you out in any way, more than happy to. That's it. Good luck. We'll talk to you later.